Hi everyone! Next to me here is the Narwal X10 Pro vacuum cleaner, which we're going to unbox together. Stay with me. So, this won't be a very short video, because I'm going to talk quite a lot about this vacuum cleaner, but it won't be a test video. That will come in a later episode. Right now, all that's going to happen is I'll unbox the vacuum cleaner, show you its parts, tell you roughly what the machine can do, and of course I'll talk a bit about it as well, so it won't be a short video, but I'll try to edit it a bit afterwards so it doesn't end up being miles long. So, let's get started and open the box to see what's inside. On the very top shelf we have the usual things, a manual and another manual. Of course these usually don't come in Hungarian, but that's not a big deal, since there are plenty of tests online, and I'll also tell you everything you need to know. What's particularly interesting and noteworthy at the very top of the device is that we actually get a side brush, which at first glance looks quite special and unique on the Narwal. This special and innovative design means that this side brush is able to change its shape in a way that is quite different from what we usually see. Unlike the old traditional side brushes that typically had 3 bristle strands, this one only has 2 bristle strands, and depending on how fast it's spinning and what it needs to brush or clean, it can open up or close. This means that its big advantage over normal brushes is that when it closes, hair, threads, and all kinds of fibers can unwind from it. So these brushes don't collect fibers on the axle and you don't have to clean them as often. This is a really great thing, and it's something I really like about Narwal vacuums. We also find a power cable here. This is of course an EU power cable, so we can use it here in Hungary as well. And other than that, there's really nothing else to be found in the top section of the box, so I can set this aside for now. Yes, well, the next part that we'll be looking at will be the vacuum itself, and of course the dock, which is definitely not a small thing by any means. I'll try to take it out of here very carefully in a way that ensures nothing gets damaged or scratched during the process. And here it is, finally, the Narwal XT, which is the main highlight of this unboxing experience. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the dock because, of course, I've already read up on what this machine is capable of doing. So it's really no coincidence that the dock is this large. These machines are equipped with a mopping function, and not a bad one at that, since inside the dock you'll find tanks. Actually, 2 separate tanks, one for clean water and one for dirty water. This is exactly what they look like. So this one is for clean water and this one is for dirty water. The tanks are quite large, and at least for us at home, they hold enough water for about 2 or 3 cleaning cycles. Inside the tank, you'll find 2 things. One is a kind of grate that needs to be placed where the vacuum cleaner docks at the bottom, and the other is a dust bag. As you can see, this is a dock with a dust bag, which means that you don't have to deal with it for quite a long time, sometimes even for months, since the dust bag is relatively large. When the vacuum returns to the dock sucks the dirt out of the vacuum and into the dust bag. So here, you only need to empty the dust bag occasionally, which I really like. With the old machine, you had to empty the dust container daily, which was extremely inconvenient and something I really didn't like. That's it. But with this machine, there's no such problem anymore. You just have to put the dust bag in here and you can easily insert it. The great thing about this dust bag, as is the case with many other machines, is that when you take it out, you pull up this little tab and it seals off the dust's path. So when you remove the dust bag from its place from the machine, the dust won't scatter everywhere. For those who have seen this kind of vacuum before, one thing might stand out to them, which is present in other machines but missing here, and that's because this machine doesn't have a detergent tank. There's no compartment for cleaning solution. Normally there would be a slot here where you could insert the tank, but in this machine that's not the case. So this machine can only mop with water, with hot water. It doesn't add any detergent to the water. That feature is actually exclusive to the Z, the highest category. Only those machines have it. And if I remember correctly, I think the Flow also has it, but that uses a completely different mopping system. Anyway, the point is that with this machine, you won't find a mopping tank here, so it does a bit less than the Z generation, but that's why it's called the X and not the Z. Now let's move on and I'll show you the vacuum itself and talk a bit about what the machine can do. So I really like these machines for several reasons. This little side brush is one of the things I really like about it. You have to snap it on here like this, and I'll turn it over and show you things on the bottom because there are some interesting things here. Now, one of the interesting things I have to start with is the main roller brush, which is inside here. What's really interesting about this, and we've already gotten used to this with Narwal, at least with the more expensive machines, is that this is the so-called the floating brush. In this case means that only one side of the brush is fixed while the other side floats in the air. And this is really great because just like the side brush, it can't collect hair or fabric threads. Instead, these get unwound from the brush and are nicely sucked into the vacuum. So this roller brush is basically maintenance free, and they don't even include a cutting tool like with the older machines, which you would use to cut off the tangled hair. The threads from the brush, because it's simply not necessary. This is another thing I really like about Narwal vacuums. The third thing I really like about these machines is the mop, because these mops are rotating mops, so it's not the usual thing that the vacuum just drags behind itself on the floor and can only wipe up dust. These mops are actually capable of mopping. Now, what's interesting about this machine is that in terms of the mop, it's somewhere between the Z Ultra and the Z10 Ultra. Because as I mentioned, the Z includes a detergent tank, while the X does not have a detergent tank. The Z Ultra we use has a completely standard rotating mop, but with this mop, the system that's already built in is the one from the Z10 Ultra. And this means that if I take off this mop, you can see that this mop can move out to the side here. And the mop itself, if I put it back on and show it like this, so if it reaches the corner of a cabinet or its edge, or a place where the vacuum cleaner normally couldn't reach, then the mop can simply swing out to the side here. And this means it can mop and wipe in a much wider strip than, for example, the Z Ultra vacuum. By the way, this mop is magnetic, just so you know. There's no need to snap it on, click it or squeeze it, just grab it and it's in place. The magnet pulls it in. So the mop system in this machine is already a more advanced mop system than in the older Z Ultra. It has what we find in the Z10 Ultra, which is a huge plus. But what is it that this machine does less than the Z series? Well, actually, it's the navigation that's a bit less advanced in these machines, or rather in the X10 Pro compared to the others. What does this mean exactly? It means that both series are capable of recognizing, detecting, and avoiding objects as small as a few centimeters. However, the two machines, the Z series and the X series, because in the Z series, there's a laser on top of the machine, a laser at the front, and also two cameras at the front. The two cameras work together to create a three-dimensional or 3D image from two different sides, and it's this 3D image that recognizes, photographs, and identifies objects that appear in front of the vacuum cleaner. So it's a very smart and advanced system. In addition, of course, there's also a LiDAR sensor on top of the machine. A sensor, or LiDAR, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, but anyway, there's another laser-based sensor on top, which is responsible for mapping the room. Now, the X10 Pro doesn't work exactly the same way. The X10 Pro works like this. There's the usual rotating laser sensor on top. At the bottom, you'll find the carpet sensors and the drop sensor to prevent falls. And there's an infrared sensor here on the side as well as at the front. All these sensors work together to help the device navigate and map the environment more effectively and safely. And of course, there's a window as well. Now, behind this window, however, there isn't a laser or a dual direction camera, but instead it uses what's called structured light. What is structured light? Structured light is a solution where the vacuum projects infrared light onto the objects in front of it. But this infrared light isn't just a plain infrared beam. It's some kind of structured light, which could be a grid pattern, a dot matrix or anything like that. And depending on how this projected grid or dot matrix is distorted on the object that appears in front of the vacuum, the machine can calculate what it's seeing, how big it is, and how far away it is. So essentially, this is also a form of 3D sensing, just a much simpler 3D sensing than the dual camera plus laser system found in the Z generation. Of course, for this as well, you obviously still need a camera, even though they call it a sensor, but clearly it's an optical sensor. It has to be a camera that sees, recognizes, and reads the image of the infrared structured light. And then the brain of the machine can calculate, based on this, what shape the given object has when illuminated by the structured light, how big it is, how far away it is, etc., as I just explained. So the navigation system in this machine is a bit simpler than in the Z series. But in any case, this is also considered a very advanced technology. What I can also mention is that inside there is a dustbin. Of course, this machine also has a dustbin. We don't have a water tank. I'll talk a bit more about that later. What you need to know about the dustbin is that Narwal uses a rather special solution for this as well, because inside the dustbin there is a second container. And this second container inside the dustbin serves the purpose that we pour together, the dirt. I really like this solution in the earliest, cheapest Narwal vacuum cleaner. It wasn't one of those big docking solutions, the dirt always collected in the dustbin. But because the dirt was compacted in this plastic container inside the large bin, you could use the machine much longer without cleaning it, even 2 or 3 times as long as with a normal dustbin machine. With these machines, this isn't really the main point. The dustbin isn't there primarily for that reason, though obviously it's not a bad thing to have it. The real reason is that the dirt collects and gets compacted in it, and when the vacuum cleaner, which is in this dock, sucks out the dirt, it can remove this compacted dirt much more efficiently in one go. So this is again a really great feature, and of course it also has a HEPA filter inside. That's in every vacuum cleaner, so again, that's not particularly interesting. It's this inner container here that concerns us and that we find interesting. And that's pretty much it about the vacuum cleaner. There aren't really many controls on it. There's just one button and a home button up here. You can start it with these, and of course in the test I'll show the app and talk about it because it comes with a very advanced application. I'd also like to say a few words about the mopping function. Actually, it's not just about mopping the floor in general, but more specifically, it's about the mop itself, the specific type of mop being used, and the particular way in which it is operated or handled. Because with these advanced cleaning machines, the way it works is that when the vacuum cleaner returns to its docking station, it carefully backs in nicely and precisely, and underneath the dock, there's a designated area where water can be used to wash and clean the mop thoroughly. With these machines, clean fresh water from the water tank flows down, the mop gets washed in this clean water, and the mop spins around inside the washing area. And when it finishes the washing process, the machine then sucks the used water back up into the dirty water tank, keeping the clean and dirty water separate for better hygiene and cleaning efficiency. So this is actually a really great solution, and what's especially good about it is that you can not only set how much water is used for mopping, that is how wet the mop should be, but you can also set how often the vacuum should return to the dock. If I remember correctly, the options are set for 6, 12, and 18 square meters. As far as I recall, though, I might not be entirely sure, but I'll check this exactly in the review. So in the app, you can set how many square meters the vacuum should mop before it returns to the dock to wash the mops. I won't go into detail about this now, but it's definitely worth noting that this machine is insanely cheap right now because of Black Friday. So if you want to get yourself a vacuum with such an advanced dock, with a dust bag dock, a mop washing dock, and rotating mops, then I think you shouldn't miss out on this, because compared to the regular prices, if you can get this machine for 30 to 40,000 forints less, which in this case means it's about a quarter cheaper now than it was before the Black Friday deals. So if you want to get a machine like this for yourself, I'll put the link and the coupon code in the video description so you'll know where you can buy it, and the price will be there too, so you'll see how much you can get it for. Later on, I'll also post a written review, and of course there will be a proper test of the Porsy World as well, so come back and check that out too. Until then, make sure to subscribe, blah 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 blah. Bye.